you never know how it's going to be received if you're not a marketing person because it's a lot of work and you've got a lot of different opinions. But I think the trust between the marketing team here, Toki, and the fact that all of the design staff was just yearning for something new really helped it along.
Welcome to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc., where we feature experts in growth and brand visibility for law firms and architecture, engineering, and construction firms. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Calcote King. I'm your host, and I'm the principal and president of Reputation Inc. We are a public relations and marketing agency for architecture, engineering, and construction firms and other B2B professional services firms. To learn more, go to rep-inc, that's inc with a K.com. Cline Design Associates is an interdisciplinary architecture, planning, and interior design firm that has served North Carolina since 1989. The firm works across several markets, including residential, mixed use, commercial, workplace, and renovation and reuse. Cline Marketing Director Jill Davis is here to talk about Cline and her team's work to make the firm stand out in the architecture space. So welcome to the show, Jill.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, so let's start. We had before the show started, we were kind of talking about, it's never a kind of direct path into professional services firms and especially architecture. So kind of tell me how you got into this.
Yeah, I was listening to your podcast when your guest said nonlinear, and that may have been my
Yes.
favorite term for the path to this. Yeah, I spent 17 years, I'm going to date myself now, marketing groceries. So
Oh, wow.
how that translates to architects is very interesting. So in that 17 years, I worked for a company that was kind of dissipating, and there was just no security in the
Yeah.
job. So I happened to find this posting on LinkedIn for this global architecture firm that, had 1,800 people worldwide. I'm like, this sounds interesting. Turns out it was HOK. So I went
Oh,
big
well.
coming into the AEC industry. I knew nothing. I mean, I was in over my head. There's no mistaking that. But I had somebody, my former boss, who I still talk to this day, who really truly believed in me and helped me. And for 5 years, I served as the marketing manager in HOK's St. Louis office. So I learned a
Great.
ton from them. And it was one of the things I love to do is learn new things. So there was no shortage of learning new
Yeah,
things
I
while I
bet.
was there. So spent
I
5 years there and kind of outgrew the position a little bit. A firm that size, you have very detailed job descriptions of what you're doing, whether you're a proposal manager or marketing manager, what have you. And I wanted to do a little bit more. So I found a job posting for Cline. And the job posting really intrigued me because you could tell just by the posting, it was like they want somebody to build something. It's the
Yes.
posting range from anything from like stationary design to like business development to doing proposals to planning events. It was just something that said, okay, normally people would kind of balk at that, right? Like, maybe that's not for me. I'm like, no, there's something going on here. And I knew it was the right fit when I came to interview. Or you walk in the doors here, and I worked in Raleigh first and then moved to our Charlotte office. But I walked in the doors here and it was home. It's very much just the culture. Everybody's so welcoming and inviting. And man, it has been a journey and a blast. And I've been here for 5 years now. So in the industry
Oh,
for
I love
almost
it.
11. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. And looks like you're making quite an impact because I know you guys recently went through a rebrand. Tell me about that. Why did you decide to do a rebrand? And how was it received when you said, "Hey"? I'm guessing. Well, tell me about the why.
Yeah. So our visual identity didn't really match who we were, right? We had outgrown it. We have very talented individuals from all across the US. When I started here, we were an 80-person firm. We're now a 130-person firm. We moved to the Charlotte office here and have already outgrown it in less than 2 years. So we're this growing firm. We were going through a leadership transition. Our founder retired. So it was time. It was time to really kind of do that introspective look at who we are as a brand and who we are as a company and see if we're still in alignment with our core values. I I will say the website sparked some of this. I think every marketer can tell you it's like, oh, we need to update our
Yeah.
website. And we
Yeah.
were at that point too. And we're like, well, if we're going to do this, we really need to take this moment since we're transitioning, since we're doing all these things. This is the moment where we do the overhaul if we need to. So we
Yeah.
hired Toki out of St. Louis. It's no surprise that it was out of St. Louis or it's no coincidence. That's where I'm from. And I knew the firm. They did help HOK with their rebrand. Uh, they come highly recommended, and we hit it off with them. Like they became part of the Cline family very quickly. And they helped us. They went through and did interviews with people across the firm and not just like leadership, but they went all across the firm to really understand who we are, to pinpoint, as I always said, that culture that you just can't put words to. It's a feeling. And they did a fantastic job just getting to know us, understand who we are, understand how we operate, our core values, and put it into not just messaging, but a visual identity and website. And it's amazing how it turned out. And the team here, you never know how it's going to be received if you're not a marketing person because it's a lot of work and you've got a lot of different opinions. But I think the trust between the marketing team here, Toki, and the fact that all of the design staff was just yearning for something new really helped it along. And we had them involved in the process too. It wasn't just interviews. We all got together, um, top leadership. So there's probably like 30 of us sitting in a room in Raleigh, away from all other humans and just having a focused half day where we said, okay, here's who we said we want it to be. Now let's look at what our competitors are doing. Let's look at what visual identities we like and we don't like. And Toki really took all that in and created what you see today. And it really
Yeah.
does say who we are. And we love it. It's been a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
That's great. Well, tell me about the tagline, the Imagine a Place tagline. What does that mean and kind of how did you land on it?
Yeah. So Mansion to Place was with us before this last rebrand, before my time. So back in about 2016 ish, I want to say. We did a rebrand with another group, and it was like a rebrand light kind of exploration. It was let's change our colors, let's change our logo. We kept the core values. Like we didn't explore the messaging too much, I think, in that particular rebrand, not like the deep dive we did this past round. And Imagine a Place really came from the creativity of the people that we have here. It's it's creativity with logic because we deal a lot with developers. That's probably 95% of our clients are developers. So we always know that we have to balance the pro forma, or we need to balance whatever it is, but we figure out ways to be creative with it. So not just, you know, designing a pretty building, but what materials can we use to help with the pro forma and keep it within budget? And it still is a place that somebody is going to call home and be proud to call home. So that's kind of how that came about. We re-examined if we needed to keep that tagline, and it was pretty much a resounding yes. It's still who we are. We just added to it at this point. So now it's not only that, but we position ourselves as the experts at designing the experience of living well. So a little hard to put that on a tagline, but it's kind of our
Yeah.
mantra internally.
Yeah, it's interesting when taglines become something internally that people really grab onto and turn into something that's kind of a rallying cry internally. I've seen that happen in companies. And if you try to change it, you realize that it does really mean something to people internally. And it becomes, and that means it's impactful. It has meaning. So it's not
Yeah.
just a throwaway marketing tool. So
Yeah.
well, tell me about so that's the rebrand. And obviously, our websites are the top marketing asset for any marketer, but tell me about your other marketing channels. Where do you place your most emphasis in your marketing? What are the highest performing channels for you?
Yeah, so I'm a data geek by heart or at heart. So I like to look at the analytics on our website, on our social media,
Yeah.
and see where we're being most impactful, what messaging resonates. So our social media, I would say our LinkedIn and Instagram feeds are probably our biggest tool that
Yeah.
we can use to communicate the fastest, but to be also the most impactful. Our
Yeah.
website is, and I'm biased, I love it. As beautiful as it is a research tool. That's like the second step in some cases, people getting to know us. So we realize one of our most impactful pieces that we can use is picking up that LinkedIn feed and finding a way to create some messaging around it. So we rely heavily on social media. E-blasts, it's kind of a love-hate relationship, I'm not gonna lie. Because we want to be an
It is for
asset,
everyone.
right?
It's
Yeah.
so difficult. Yeah. Hmm.
And we don't want to be just noise. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
we want to
Sure.
have something that provides value to our clients or prospective new hires or even prospective clients. So I would say a lot of what we rely on is definitely our social media. And then we do a little bit of thought leadership. We're still delving into that. What's great about being, a 30-year-old plus company is we're in a different stage of the life cycle than like an HOK is. So we're still exploring new things that work for us and that are impactful, and growing those things. So we're really starting to focus on that leadership. We're using our website, our news and ideas page for that right now. And we do a little bit of paid content here and there with some publications to help with that. Um, but that is definitely our next like big focus is how do we really leverage thought leadership to be a good partner with our clients and help them with design or with a new site or what have you. What can we say to help them in their
I love
daily
to hear
lives?
that.
Yeah, yeah.
As a thought leadership agency, I love to hear that. Um, okay, so you're just starting to delve into thought leadership. What are some of the challenges that you're running into? I mean, I can imagine what some of them
Yeah.
are. Sometimes
I think the
it's a
top
lot
one
of
is
fun.
time, right? Trying to
Time.
get
Yeah.
somebody away from a project to really think about what this is. So in the past, as we've done this, and we typically try to do like two big pieces a year. That's our goal. That I think that stretches everybody a little thin, but it also at least gets something impactful out there. But yeah, I think what we've done is typically we'll interview somebody here and say, let's talk about the trends. Here's what we're hearing in the news. Here's what we're hearing in our industry and with our clients. What do you have to offer? Let's talk about some of the things that you do that maybe could help our clients. And one of the things I love about architects and interior designers and planners is for them, this is like a Tuesday. For us, it's like, this is extraordinary what you do every
Right.
day.
Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah.
So now we have to put that into words and explain it to people. So it's fun to like pick their brains and really
Uh huh.
understand like how they're going to like how they're understanding the clients and what they can offer. So we'll interview them. We'll get bullet points from them. And I think once we do, it's always the first draft, right? And if you put a graphic with it, somehow we get a great response with that too. Anytime we put a visual aid with something. But we'll go back to the person that we interviewed. We'll have the first draft. And then that's what really gets the wheels turning for them, right? Is
Yeah.
they read through it and they're like, okay, this is really interesting. Here's where we can go with it. So it's not a quick process by any means.
No.
But we really first identify the trends, then identify the key players here that could really help with that situation. And it's not necessarily just one person. That's the other kicker with it is we've had where we brought all disciplines into a room and said, especially during COVID and people trying to come back into the office, okay, how do we change the look of an office so that people want to be here? And just to have that brainstorming session with the design group, also where I geek out, it's kind of fun to watch people just ideate of what could be turned into a great thought leadership piece on how you program your building to be more like home.
Yeah.
What did you love about home that you could come here? So a very loaded answer to your question, but I think we found that collaborating, at least identifying the trends for people and collaborating with the key players and giving them a forum to just imagine a place,
Yeah.
just to imagine things, really helps foster that thought leadership.
Yeah. Absolutely. We call so my term for that, I borrowed it from another agency, is knowledge extraction, because that's
I
exactly
like
what
that.
we find is that you've got to pull it out of their brains, right? And then you have to put it in front of them and go, this is what I heard. Then kind of have that iteration process. So a lot of times it's so mundane in their minds that they don't quite realize until you package it up and go, no, this is a trend, this is an idea, this is an article, this is a video, this is a case study, whatever it is. They don't see it that way until a marketer kind of packages it, pulls it out, creates it. And that's the skill set that the marketer has.
Yeah,
So it's by coming together, and that's the process and that's where kind of the thought leadership magic happens. But you're
yeah.
right, it's not easy. It's time consuming. It's expensive, and it takes a real skill set to get it right. So
Yeah.
Do you encourage your architects, because you mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned Instagram, do you encourage your architects to interact with your LinkedIn content at all? Do you have success with that?
Absolutely. Where it was super successful was when we launched the brand. We did a month long competition. Just and we broke so we have 5 new brand colors. So we broke everybody out into one of the new brand colors as a team. And the whole first week was doing nothing but resharing either Cline posts or creating your own. And we gave them the tools to do that.
Smart.
And it was so well received and it was fantastic. We had people posting and tagging us and using hashtags, and the rebrand really helped bring it to light. We have a bi-monthly firm-wide meeting where marketing gets to talk about like, hey, here's what's going on. And we always do the top posts. Like, here's the number one post from the past 2 months. And we talk it up, but it was never really applied. So people knew it was out there and they might see like, oh, my project was like the most popular post on Instagram this month or something like that, which was cool. But now we turned it over and we're like, okay, now you get to go make those posts. And I would have to get the stats, but I remember just seeing the spike in social media
Yeah.
for reach and for everything else. It really helped to bring to light all of what we were doing behind social media from inception until then, right? And now we still get
Yeah.
questions of people. We have one of our CA people. He also is the organizer of the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl squares that everybody does at work, right? So he came up with a client hashtag, and he's like, "Okay, take pictures of your Super Bowl food and all that good stuff, and put in there hashtag Klein Super Party or something like that." So everybody's gotten on board with it and really behind it, and
Nice.
it's awesome. And
Yeah.
now it's top of mind when we're talking about events that people are going to. So the rebrand really helped educate people on what there was possible to them that they could do to help promote Klein and themselves.
Yeah, and I think it makes people proud of who they work for when it looks good, and
Yeah.
when it reflects who they think this company is. And it just makes them proud to shout from the rooftops, this is the company I work for. So
Yeah. And
when it doesn't,
yeah, you layer in a competitive aspect to it. I didn't realize how competitive our
right.
people were.
Yeah.
But we even said like on LinkedIn, change your wallpaper, your header to like we gave them a toolkit that they could pick from and you got points for it. And I mean, it was we had to go through a marketing perspective. We had to go through everybody's LinkedIn profile and see how things were going. But I would say we had at least an 80% adoption of it. Like it was just nuts. We would have never gotten that unless we rebranded and made
That's
it
great.
competitive.
Yeah. Are you doing much with video?
We do. It's expensive, of course.
Yeah.
We have a partner in Trimark Digital in Raleigh that helps us.
Yeah.
And they do a fantastic job of capturing who we are as people and just the creative things that we do on projects. So we reserve them for like the big videos, the big
Yeah.
things that we want to talk about. Internally, we, grab an iPhone, grab, one of our cameras and we'll do videos. There's a couple you can definitely tell on our website that I did. We all have
Right.
video
Yeah.
equipment that we can edit with. I think that the hardest thing being a marketer is you want it to be perfect when it goes out,
Right.
right?
I know. Yeah.
So when I'm sitting there editing and it's like, oh, I can hear background noise or oh, I can do this,
Uh-huh.
it's the video editor hat comes on and it's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
well, I can't fix that. So there's a good side of doing that though, that grassroots effort of like, oh, it's not perfect and that's okay. It kind of also reflects that, we're all human here and we wear many hats and it's not just a marketing thing. It still captures who we are, but it gives us a little bit more like grit and integrity with those people looking at us. Like it doesn't all have to be in a pretty package, it's
It
us.
doesn't. It's a real balance. And it is interesting as technology advances and you can capture more of it with your iPhone or, with really more basic tech. I'm finding that because my team is full of former broadcast journalists. And we're ourselves just doing more and more shorter videos and trying to do what we preach to clients, which is there is a time and place for the high end beautiful video, but there also is that time for the less beautiful, the more, real type video. So, but yeah, you have to let go of the perfectionism
Yeah.
for
That's
that.
really tough in
So
the design world
it
too,
is.
right?
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine full of
Yeah.
architects. So, who are have a design eye. Tell me about your in-house team and how that is structured. What disciplines do you have in-house? What do you keep in-house?
Yeah, so we have a team of 4, and that's as of about a year ago. So, at one point before I was hired, it was a team of 1, and I still to this day have no idea how my brand manager kept her sanity for that year, but
I
she
know
did
I
it.
have
She
many
did
clients that are like that. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But now we're structured because we have 2 offices. You know, in my past life at HOK, we had proposal managers in each location
I
and
can
things like
imagine.
that.
Huge.
We don't have the luxury of doing that, nor do I think I want to be structured that way. We're more of a firm wide resource no matter where we're located. So I have a brand manager, Kelly Strong. She is housed in our Raleigh office, and she not only does the branding for the office and was really instrumental in our rebrand, she also does branding services for clients. So we just launched that with her, and she's really been just owning that. And since she launched that, that meant we needed somebody to help her. So we got a marketing coordinator with a graphic slant. Ari is fantastic.
Yeah.
She was fresh out of college. So this was her first foray into this industry as well. And we were like, welcome. There's no direct
Yeah.
path. So we're glad you're here.
Right. Yeah.
But she has just set the world on fire here. She's been very helpful from a graphics perspective and social media content. She helps create and make that cohesive look on our Instagram page and our LinkedIn feeds and helps a little bit with even crafting the content behind it. And she works really well with Natalie, our communications manager. So Natalie is responsible for PR and content marketing, internal, external communications. And we didn't have that before. So she has built that
Yeah.
from the ground up, as well as Kelly building the branding piece from the ground up. And then you have me as the marketing director who just, herds the cats, gets the analytics, tries to make sure we're positioned the right way. And
Yeah.
I'm just lucky to have them as a team. They're just an incredible group of women who are creative and smart and funny and make coming here a joy every day.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you've got a really good thing going there. I'm glad you mentioned PR. Tell me about the role that PR plays in your strategy. Is it mostly to promote your projects, the work you're doing on your projects and your people? Is it awards? Tell me about that.
It's a little bit of everything you just mentioned. We do try to reserve it so that we're not just pummeling, the media with stuff that they're like, okay, great, you got another award or things like that. Like how do we make that impactful and helpful to somebody at the Charlotte Business Journal or the Triangle Business Journal, right? Like what makes this interesting to them that they can say, here's what somebody in your community is doing. So anytime we have like a really prominent change in our company, like when we went through the leadership transition, we switched from a founder to a new president. Everything was internal. We put press releases out there. We also use our own website to kind of promote that as well. We do a little bit of paid advertising. So the thought leadership, the paid content helps us with that. We also, especially if we have a new hire, we may use like the TBJ's People on the Move or something like that. So it's very
Yeah.
grassroots, very low budget. But that is another piece of our marketing team that we want to grow. Natalie and I have had many conversations on communications plans and, how do we target what's going on in the media to respond and be like, oh, hey, we're doing adaptive reuse here in the area. Let us
Right.
tell you about this. So right now, like I said, it's very grassroots, it's very internal,
Yeah.
but it would be something that it kind of is in the hand of thought leadership. Like, how do we
Right.
leverage this
Yeah,
the
they
right
kind of go
way?
hand in hand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's talk about SMPS because I know a lot of kind of up and coming marketers listen to this show. And if anyone listening, SMPS is the Society for Marketing Professional Services, and it's the organization for marketers at architecture, engineering, and construction firms. So I know you are, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the Charlotte president elect.
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
So tell me about SMPS's impact on your career.
From day one, the guy who took a chance on this person who, marketed groceries, he said to me, "You need to get involved with SMPS." And I looked at him and I was like, "This is the fourth acronym I've heard since I've been here. What?
Right. Yeah.
What is that? Google? What am I going to do?" So he made me sign up and become a member. I went to my first event and I was like, okay. And he kind of left it at that. It was my duty to either get as involved as I wanted to be or just go to events or whatever. I wanted to learn more. I'm one of those people that just loves to learn new things, as I said before. And I there was something so interesting about S&PS. Where I came from, competitors don't talk to each other. That's a big no-no. And here we could be competitors one day and you could be partners the next. So it
I
was
know.
so
Yeah.
strange. But I learned so much because I knew nothing about this industry. And I walked into a room of people who were going through the same thing I was going through. And they had different experience levels and everybody was welcoming. They're like, we get where you're at. If you have questions, that let's go have lunch together or just, shoot me an email if you have a question. Everybody was
Yeah.
so welcoming and open to help. And that just, I felt like I had to get back. The longer I was in it, the more I wanted to be involved. And not only from a learning perspective, because it gave me so much, but okay, now it's my turn to help those people coming in wherever I can. So I got involved in SPS St. Louis, was on the communications committee and then was asked to be president-elect there. So I became president-elect, then served for just a couple months as president and got the job here. So then I skedaddled actually to Raleigh, and I was on their communications committee the entire time I was there. And then, of course, moved to Charlotte and
Yeah.
became communications co-director. And now I'm president-elect. So I'm a glutton for punishment. I just keep taking things on. I have a problem saying no, but it's so exciting to be involved with it. It doesn't feel like a chore. Um,
Yeah.
I've met so many people this way. I would not have met the amount of people that I have in Charlotte when I moved if it weren't for STS Research Triangle and a connection there. And the same thing moving to Raleigh from St. Louis. I lived in St. Louis all my life before I moved there. I knew nothing outside of St. Louis. And I had a connection from another president elect. I knew that I had kind of been an acquaintance with. I reached out to her. I said, "Hey, you're in Raleigh. I'm moving to Raleigh. Just curious about the lay of the land." And she connected me with a bunch of people. So I didn't feel lonely when I got here. I
Yeah.
kind of knew the lay of the land a little bit and knew who to talk to. So it's an incredible organization. Sometimes I feel like it's a hidden gem, like it's like more
Yeah.
people should know about this in this industry and be part of it because it's so beneficial, both
Yeah.
from a networking perspective and an education perspective.
I recommend it to any of my clients that come in and are new to the AEC industry because it is true. People share a lot and collaborate because you're right. This industry is very collaborative. And I find that, yeah, the more you are collaborative with competitors, the better your career and your company is going to be. So I'm the same way. There's one thing I wanted to ask you on your bio. It says you rappelled down a 20 plus story Hyatt in St. Louis.
I did.
How did that happen?
That's a great question. So, when I was peddling groceries for 17 years, we had an organization that was our nonprofit charity that we did a lot of work with called Special Olympics Missouri. And I think almost the entire 15 years I was with Shop and Save, that's the grocer there. We were a supporter of them and we put on a lot of events for them. And one was called Over the Edge. And so they picked a building in downtown St. Louis. You had to raise $1,000 or more and you got to rappel down it. Um, when I was with the grocery chain, my now husband, I volunteered him to do it and raise the money for him to do it, but I wasn't doing it. So I finally got the nerve and I was at HOK. The building was literally like across the street from where our office was. Um, I convinced one of the interior designers to do it with me. We raised the money and yeah, we got to go rappel down the Hyatt.
Wow.
It was the most
Good for
terrifying
you.
thing I've ever done. I promise you it is a great thing to do once in your life, maybe just once.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have a major fear of heights, so I'm not sure
Same.
I could do that, but good for you. Oh, wow. That's good for you for doing it with a fear of heights. That's fantastic. Well, so last question.
Sure.
I like to ask all our guests if there's one final thought you'd like to leave anyone. It could be a tip on marketing an architecture firm or the biggest lesson that you've learned in your AEC marketing career. But if there's one final thought,
Yeah, I would say, oh my goodness, I have lots of them, but the
I
biggest
know.
one that I've learned in this industry, be inquisitive. It is okay to ask questions, especially if I don't know about engineers and construction managers, but I will tell you from the architecture side, if you said, please tell me what you do, they'll sit down with you for an hour and explain everything. And I love it because it's just something that I never understood and never like I wanted to learn more. But be inquisitive and be open to hearing, like learning new things.
Yeah.
It's such a fantastic industry. And there are so many creative people here that, like, again, this is what they do on a Tuesday. Um, but for us, just to learn how a building comes together and how it impacts everybody, the entire community, it's pretty amazing. And you will always learn something new. Like I said, I've been doing this for almost 11 years now, and I still learn new things.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. Well, we've been talking to Jill Davis of Cline Design Associates. So if people want to reach out and talk to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Oh, LinkedIn for sure. I always see those pop
Great.
ups. And if you want my very long email address, it's Jill D at kleindesignassociate.com.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.